These are my first impressions of the Pearl Mimic Pro drum module. What's up? My name is Justin. Welcome to 65 Drums, the place to keep on top of all things eDrum related. Hope you guys are all having an awesome day. Recently got my hands on a Pearl Mimic Pro drum module for the first time, thanks to Robert. If you want to go check out his channel, I'll link it down in the description below. I'm really excited to talk about it. If you want to skip ahead to playing examples, I'll leave a timestamp on the screen right there. Anyway, let's get into it. In the beginning, we always knew that it was either a Yamaha drum module or a Roland drum module that would be king for that year. When everyone releases their new drum set at NAMM, we always knew that it was either going to be a Roland drum set or a Yamaha drum set that had the best sounding drum module with the most editing features. And then Two-Box came along and was a legit contender, but it was really just those three companies. And then all of a sudden, Pearl came out with this drum module. It's basically a computer, an all-in-one computer with a touchscreen and a bunch of plugs on the back. That's what it is. And it's running Steven Slate Drums 5. I don't know if Steven Slate Drums 5 is released in software form yet, but when the Mimic first came out, it was the only place you could get Steven Slate Drums 5. And of course, Steven Slate Drums 4 was very popular amongst electronic drummers for a very long time. In fact, if you go watch the channel Beats by Jay, he does a lot of cool drum covers with an electronic drum set. He actually uses Steven Slate Drums 4. It's almost like guys from Pearl were in all the Facebook groups and in all the forums and watching all the videos, and they found out exactly what drummers were asking for, and they delivered it in the form of this drum module. All we wanted was a computer that had drum software already built into it. We just wanted drum software in a box. That's all we wanted. We were tired of the Roland stuff they were doing. Yes, Roland does use samples, but they're heavily modified. We were tired of Yamaha drum modules because they're getting ancient and the sounds inside of them aren't up to par with drum software. And even Two-Box, even though that's a highly lauded drum module that a lot of people like, we all know that the sounds inside of that just aren't as good as Superior Drummer or Addictive Drums or Steven Slate Drums. So we needed something. We basically wanted a box with a lot of inputs on the back that had a VST inside of it. And that's what Pearl delivered here. And it's their first legit drum module for a very long time. Maybe since, I don't know, the 80s or 90s, back when they were originally doing electronic drums. It sort of took a hiatus, and then they came out with the Pearl True Track Pack, the Pearl ePro Live series, but Pearl did not put their heart into that drum set at all. So I feel like this is their first legit drum module that they've done for a very long time. All right, so let's jump into the specs for a second. This thing has 128 gigabyte solid state drive, 24-bit samples from Steven Slate Drums 5, 16 audio outputs, 8 from the module itself, and then 8 from a cable snake. It's compatible with most of the pads on the market. It's got an IPS touchscreen display, custom routing of pads to each output. You can make your own custom headphone mix and then your own custom mix just to go to the audience. That's sweet. I want to talk about the specs for a second. First of all, let's talk about that hard drive. 128 gigabytes solid state drive. Number one, the fact that it's solid state means that the samples are going to load faster. This thing, when you change kits, it's going to take you 2 to 3 seconds, more like 3 seconds, possibly 4 seconds. It's very fast. It's literally 2 to 3 times faster than if you'd use the Alesis Strike Drum module, which I've talked about in another video. It's got enough RAM and stuff inside of it. The processor it's using is powerful enough to quickly transition between samples. Even when I have samples imported onto a beefy gaming laptop, like this has an NVIDIA 1050 Ti and Core i7 and 16 gigabytes of RAM, even with all of that, this thing doesn't load another kit from a VST faster than 2 to 3 seconds. So really that's as fast as you can go when you're using really high quality samples. I feel like that hard drive should be a little bit larger, especially since you're spending $2,200 on this drum module. I think they could have afforded to give you a 200 or a 300 gigabyte solid state drive. But anyway, that is enough room. It's not going to take up the entire hard drive, which means Steven Slate Drums has enough room to sell you expansion packs in the future. They give you a lot inside of this drum module. Believe it or not, there are tons of snares, tons of kick drums to choose from. There's a lot of that. One thing they really skimped on is percussion instruments. Now, I don't really care about percussion instruments. I could care less about having 5 different kinds of cowbells and tambourines and stuff. I'm not that kind of drummer. I'm not into Latin percussion or any of that. But I've heard from people that they do kind of miss having some of those options. For example, Robert actually recorded a sample of a tambourine and put that into the drum module. So they should have at least a selection or a package that you can download that would allow you to have some of those sounds. So they have room for that on this hard drive. Also, the fact that it's solid state, which means they'll be able to access the samples very fast. In my experience, it was around 3 seconds to load each individual kit. That's literally 3 times faster than loading a kit on the Alesis Strike, which was kind of a nightmare. Now about that screen, I'm really excited that they're using a touchscreen. This is the only drum module on the market that's utilizing a full touchscreen. As far as color screens go, the only ones that have them are the Strike, the Mimic, and then like the Simmons SD2000. Other than that, everyone still uses really old style screens. The only problem with this screen, I love the fact that it's so large, but unfortunately it has burn-in issues. If you leave it on overnight, you will have a burn-in issue just like on older style flat screen TVs. Now, it goes away over time. Like if you shut it off and you don't use it for a while, eventually the burn-in issue goes away. But it is possible that it could be an actual flaw that gets burned in all the way to the screen if you leave it on for, a few days in a row. I don't know. In the course of a normal concert, if you use it for 3 hours straight, it's fine. It's not gonna burn in. Just don't leave the screen on overnight, unfortunately. One of the most underrated features inside of this drum module is the fact that you can mix a custom mix for your headphones and a custom mix to send to the soundman. Like it said here, it's got 16 audio outputs, 8 from individual outs, and then 8 from a DB25 cable snake. So you have a lot of options here. The really harsh truth that drummers don't want to accept is that what we want to hear isn't always the same as what the audience needs to hear. I personally like to have really high cymbal volume in my headphones. But believe it or not, the audience doesn't need to have really high cymbal volume in their ears because cymbals can be a little bit, it's like a white noise almost. And the audience, most of the time, a soundman will turn down the cymbals lower than what a drummer would prefer to have. It's just getting the drums to sit in whatever mix that you're currently doing. So the fact that you can give the soundman all the control and you still have the control for your individual headphones, I think that's awesome. One of the big selling points of this drum module is that it has universal pad compatibility. I'll be linking a video down in the description below on this guy who's using Yamaha pads, mesh pads, and then the Pearl pads all mixed together. So a lot of different companies will work with this drum module. There's only a handful of drum modules out there that have this feature. The ATV 85 drum module, this Pearl Mimic Pro drum module, and then also the brand new module from 2 Box that's coming out, the 2 Box Drum It 3 drum module. Those are the only drum modules, to my knowledge, that work universally with most pads on the market. And that's awesome. So as you can see from the screen here, they've drawn up a lot of presets for different companies. So for example, they might have a preset just for the PDX 100 and then a preset for, a 9-inch cap percussion pad. So they have a lot of different presets for different companies, and that way you're ready to go. But not really, because apparently you still have to tweak the settings. What Pearl has done here is they've given you a template. Like this is getting you most of the way there. You're still gonna have to adjust sensitivity or threshold, sort of tweak the settings to really fit the pad. Even if you've got a preset for the exact pad you're using, it's not gonna work perfectly. In the trigger settings, they give you a lot to work with. There are trigger settings inside of here that I don't have in my Roland TD30 drum module behind me. They give you presets, but they don't work 100%. You have to go the extra mile and dial everything for yourself, for your own playing style, and for the pad you're using. So that's the mentality you need to have when using this drum module. It's gonna take you some time to dial everything in right. And the playing examples I'm about to do, I'm using this with an Alesis Strike Pro, and not everything is dialed in, so just listen to it for the sounds, not necessarily the triggering performance. So my personal opinion on the way this module sounds is that it's the best sounding drum module on the entire market at the moment. I played the TD50 multiple times and this thing just sounds better. It's got everything nailed down. Now, Steven Slate Drums does have a stylized sound to it, and that stylized sound might not be for you. Their miking techniques, their mixing techniques, if you don't like the sounds, and it's not necessarily because the quality isn't very high, like the sound quality is incredibly high, but they've done certain mixing techniques that will appeal to some drummers, and then some drummers, they like sounds from like Superior Drummer. But they give you a crap ton of different kick drums to look through. They give you a ton of different snares to look through. The main strength of this drum module, believe it or not, in my opinion, is the cymbals. It's kind of easy to make a good sounding kick drum. It's kind of easy to make a good sounding set of toms. It's harder to get the snare right, and it's the hardest to get the cymbals right. I can't tell you how many times I've played a drum set and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, the kick sounds good, the toms sound good, the snare's okay, but it's the cymbals. The cymbals sound like crap. That's because cymbals are just hard to get right, and Steven Slate Drums has gone the extra mile, and they've got a great sounding set of cymbals here. I'll be leaving some brands that are being used in the recordings for these cymbals on the screen there. And they just sound really dark, at least the ones I was playing. I like dark, large sounding crash cymbals and ride cymbals and hi-hats. Just everything sounds great. Of course, sound is completely a personal opinion, but listen to it through some good headphones and then tell me you think this is worse than a TD50. One thing I'm not really completely sold on is that giant touchscreen. I completely believe in touchscreens. Obviously, I have a phone, I have an iPad, so I believe in touchscreens. But it's a large area that is prone to be hit by a stick at some point. And who knows, you could accidentally kill this screen. I know you say you're not gonna accidentally hit with a stick, but there is a chance it will happen. And also, I just wish that there was a dedicated volume knob for your headphones, for your master volume, for your mix-in. They do have software controls, and it is really easy to access them. Everything's on the screen. The one good thing about the screen is that you can see everything. There's so much information that can be thrown at you. They don't throw too much at you though. They make sure all the buttons are huge. They make sure you're seeing simple amounts of information, but they can still put a lot there because the screen is so large. I like being able to drag around the trigger curves like that. That is amazing. It's just, I wish that they used a few more actual buttons and knobs and not just completely relied on the touchscreen. And I wish that they gave us some sort of promise about there being Gorilla Glass or something and it was bulletproof. That way we knew for sure it wouldn't be able to be damaged so easily. Now, I'm not trying to say that the screen thing is a deal breaker at all. In fact, this entire drum module is definitely worth buying exactly as it is. They made design choices. I don't agree with all of them, but this drum module is a complete beast. It's almost like they were watching all the forums and then they wrote down every little thing all the drummers were asking for and they gave it to us in this drum module. I wish it was a little bit cheaper because with that hardware and the software, it shouldn't cost $2,200, but it does. It's available. I'm glad it's a choice out there that drummers can choose between. If I was looking at the TD50 versus the Pearl Mimic, it's the Mimic has a lot of things going for it that the TD50 just can't do, and so there's a giant argument for the Mimic over the TD50. This drum module is definitely worth looking into if you want to have the best electronic drum experience. Not everyone wants to deal with a laptop. I know everyone says using drum software on your laptop is this easy thing, but there's a lot that goes into it. With the Pearl Mimic, you've got drum software, you got a module, you turn it on right away and it starts playing. You don't have to lug around a laptop and an audio interface and a USB cable and then boot it all up and blah, blah, blah. It just works. The Pearl Mimic just makes life easier to get the best sound out there available on the market. Now, all we need to happen now is for Yamaha to partner with TuneTrack and release a Yamaha drum module that has Superior Drummer 3 inside of it, and then we'd have a real war on our hands. So I hope more companies partner with drum software companies. That would be amazing. Anyway, I want to know what you guys think of the Pearl Mimic. Let me know down in the comments below. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll see you in a few.